So I was alone. I was the only one in the MTC group at that time that was going to the Congo. And so I went straight to Pointe Noire in the Republic of the Congo, which is the Brazzaville side. So it was a long flight, and I get there, and I step off the plane, just my glasses fog up. Like, it was so humid. It was insane, just the heat. And I get down there, we're going through customs, and we're getting our passport taken care of, our visa checked out. We got to the vaccination line. We were supposed to show where the vaccinations, like our yellow card. It turns out I didn't have a yellow card in my travel packet, and so I got quarantined for a little bit with some other people. And so the person who was doing it, he was just like this normal person with like a white lab coat on, this Congolese man, and he kept on saying $20, $20. So I didn't really know what I was supposed to do. I mean, I didn't speak French yet, and this random man, he was this random African, like, took me over. He's like, "Hey, what's the problem?" It's like, "Well, I don't have my yellow card. I'm in quarantine. I can't get out." And he was like, "Are you vacationing here? This is a weird place to vacation." And he's speaking in English, which was really nice. He's like, "No, actually, I'm a missionary." And he was like, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." So he went up to the guy and was like, "This, my friend, he needs to go through." And so the man was like, well, he needs to pay me $20. So I was like, okay, I have $20. So I gave him $20. He gave him back my vaccination papers, and he let me through to the baggage claim. And so this guy was accompanying me. He said, it's like, "Okay, now you need to look for your bags." I was like, "Well, oh look, there they are." Someone had taken them off the baggage claim and put them in just this corner by themselves. And something that happens a lot in the airports is people will take your bags and try to help you, which is, you'd think it would be nice, but they want money for it, and they're very aggressive about it. So they'll like rip the bags out of your hands and like try and take them out for you. So you have to like fight. You have to like, "No, I'm taking this myself." But they're just there by themselves. No one was standing next to them. So I was like, "Oh, look." So I grabbed them and continued over to customs, and they tried to search my bag. And then the police officer like saw my name tag and was like, "Oh, Jésus Christ. Ça va, ça va. It's okay. Let him through." So I was like, "Well, that's handy." So we walked through, and the guy come to me. He went with me the entire time, and we got out there, and he was like, "So, do you need a phone to call somebody?" I was like, "My paper says they'll be here soon." So I was like, "Cool. Enjoy the Congo," and just like went back. He didn't even ask for money or anything. He was just like, this random nice guy. And so that was my first experience. I left the airport, and right as I left, the missionary couple and my trainer walked up and was like, "Wow, look, there you are. We thought we would have to wait for you." But no, everything went super smoothly, even though I got quarantined. So that was the first day in Congo. It wasn't really traumatic, but it was certainly an experience. When we drove back to my apartment, and our apartment, it was nighttime. There's just neon lights and just hundreds of people on the streets, and it's dark and it's loud music blaring. And so I was sort of sitting there like, this is different. Yeah, that was my first area, Pointe Noire, Congo. Kinshasa mission covers the Democratic Republic of the Congo, half of that. The other half is the Lubumbashi mission. It also covers the Republic of the Congo, which has Brazzaville. It covers Cameroon, Gabon, and also Central African Republic. And Gabon actually just opened up to white missionaries, or actually missionaries in general. So there are some missionaries serving there. That's very recent, just in the last couple months. I never saw the mission home. It's in Kinshasa, and we weren't allowed to go there. That's where the mission president and all the office couples serve. So we never actually got the chance to go to the mission home. I never saw it. There are 3 countries, or four cities that you can serve in now. There's Libreville, Gabon, which is newly opened. There's 2 in Cameroon, Douala and Yaoundé, and then Pointe Noire in Republic of the Congo. Generally, there's like 24 to 30 North American missionaries there. About 120 natives from Africa, but they generally stay in Kinshasa and Brazzaville. Only when there's lack of the North American missionaries do they actually come and serve in the outlying countries. So sometimes we felt a little bit forgotten. It took me probably took me five months before I actually met my mission president face to face. Maybe 4 months. It was quite some time, just because there was a little bit of a unrest in Kinshasa, so they were evacuated to South Africa for a few months. So that was interesting. It took me a while to meet him. He came around. They usually come around once every other transfer, maybe, is when you get to see the mission president and talk to him. So you really rely on the couple missionaries that serve there. And generally they don't speak French, which can be problematic, but it's amazing what they can do without speaking the language. It was incredible. They did everything for us, and sometimes we get a phone call saying, "Hey, could you talk to this person for me?" They pass the phone over to this African, like, "Yeah, this is what he wants," just to translate for him. The mission is the Congolese people are super nice, super generous, but extremely poor. They have basically nothing. The agriculture in the country isn't very developed, and so fruit was small and expensive. Food was small quantities and expensive. They had tons of chickens everywhere, just running around. So that was really cheap, but everything else was pretty pricey. You could buy like 3 bananas like this size for $1, but in Cameroon you could buy 20 bananas this size for $1. So Cameroon is very agriculturally developed, and they have the best fruit. Bananas, mangoes, pineapples, and papayas. Oh my goodness. They just have huge quantities of everything, and it all tastes delicious. So the Democratic Republic of Congo used to be called Zaire. And then recently it was changed to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. But to make it short, we call it Congo Kinshasa, because the capital is Kinshasa, and it's right on the Congo River. And on the other side of the Congo River is Brazzaville in the Republic of the Congo. And so to keep that short, we call it Congo Kinshasa, Congo Brazza. And that's how we distinguish the two Congos the easiest. And even the natives do that. They say, "Oh, you served in the Congo Brazza or Congo Kinshasa?" And say, "Oh no, we were in Brazzaville." And so that's just how you keep them separate. They actually were, I think they were colonized by different countries. One was Belgium, and the other was France. And so they actually are two very different countries that just weren't split. They were actually, one was Zaire, one was the Republic of the Congo. They're very similar. I'd say mostly the language. A lot of people in Congo Kinshasa speak Lingala. Where we served in Pointe Noire, they speak a hybrid language of French and Kikongo called Mosquitoes, which is a really fun language to learn. But everybody there speaks it. So you can pick it up if you just speak with the members and the investigators that you teach. And they love the fact that a white guy is coming in their country and speaking their language. That is the biggest. You can open any door. We'd be teaching somebody to be sort of not very open to our message, and you're just like, okay, and then bust out a little bit of Monokutuba, and they'd be like, "Where'd you learn that?" And they're like, "Come on, sit down, let's talk." And so they're very open. You actually, for the people there, you don't need a visa to cross into the other country. Both are considered Congolese, I guess. Which is really nice, because they just announced a temple in Kinshasa. Well, they didn't just announce, that was like 2 years ago. But they announced a temple. So the people in Pointe Noire used to have to fly to South Africa, which is understandably a little bit expensive and out of a lot of people's budgets. But with the Kinshasa temple, they'll be able to take a train down to Brazza, cross a boat, and then spend a day at the temple, take a boat back, take a train back, and it'll be just like a couple-day trip, and very, very easy for the people, because they don't have to pay for passports or visas, which is something that stops a lot of people from going to the temple. They're very close. it's a boat ride across to Kinshasa and Brazza. They say when Kinshasa gets a cold, Brazzaville sneezes. So that's why for North American missionaries, we weren't allowed to serve in Brazza either, just because if something went down in Kinshasa, Brazzaville would be almost immediately affected and it'd be difficult to evacuate the missionaries. And so that's why we weren't, but I think that's going to change here soon from what I've been told. So yeah, very similar people. In Africa, there's no addresses. There's dirt roads. There's houses everywhere. In Congo, it's pretty organized in sort of a grid-like pattern. But in Cameroon, it's like a maze. You could get lost walking down the street. They just like walking down the street and boom, someone just put a house there. So you have to like go this way and then go back up and then down this valley and then you're on the other side of the house. It's insane trying to find your way around. And so that's why if you're whitewashing the area, it is incredibly difficult. It's insane trying to find those people. There's no way to like put in the area book where people live, how to find them. So you have to call them, find a place that you both know of, meet there, and then have them take you to their place, and then remember how to get there and back. And so that's really, really a problem. You get lost so easily. The members really help out. They're always willing to go with the missionaries. They know the area like the back of their hands. They've grown up there. You just tell them, oh, they said it was by this place, and like, it's this way. They'll take it to you. They love helping the missionaries. Transportation is different in Congo and Cameroon, and so I'll talk about Congo first. They have sort of routes that they run. They have a vehicle called a Sandals, which is like a blue taxi. They have buses, and the buses have numbers at the front. So you know that line 3 goes from this point all the way to this point. And so if you stand on this road, you can go get to this point, this part of the city from this bus, or you could go there and grab another bus to go to this part of the city. So you really have to learn the lines and where the taxis or the Sandals go. Sandals is just, it means 100, 100. But the price is 150 for some reason. I don't know. If it's a really short distance, you can say Sandals. They'll be like, fine, you can pay 100 each. And so, so you have to memorize those. If you're going to a place where it will be multiple changes, because every time you take a Sandals or a bus, it's 150. So if you do the math, and it's going to be too problematic to get buses at certain areas, because it's quite a crowd sometimes, especially at night trying to find a bus. It's very difficult. You can call over a taxi, which is like a really nice Sandals, but then you have to barter the price. And they generally think that since you're white, you have a lot of money. It's not necessarily the case with missionaries. You gotta really budget out your finances. So you can barter with them. Sometimes they get really angry if you try to be too cheap with them. They get a little frustrated with you. But I mean, you can generally talk them down to a fair, reasonable price. And then they'll take you directly to the location that you want to go. So they're like, taxis are always fun because it's in their best interest to get you there the quickest because you're paying for the location, not just the time spent inside. So you can get some crazy shortcuts. Like, okay, that looks like it's a lot of traffic. Cut off into a quartier, like dodging children, and like people are like, like get out of the way, like go, like there's no road. You're just like going down this trail, and you're like, yeah, I know this place, and you're just like, going, watch out! And so then they like pull off into the street and cut someone off. Like, it's like, see, I told you I could get you there, and we're just like, so that was always a little bit stressful. And that's the Congo transportation. In Cameroon, they have Sandals for 200 a person. That's just like the general price, but they don't have like routes or lines that they drive. So you could stand on any corner and call any taxi, and they don't even stop. They just slow down. You stand by the road, they slow down, like their windows roll down. You call out your destination and how much you're willing to pay for it. So if it's just like a normal distance, you say deux places, which is 400 francs, which is the type of currency that they have there. It's about, I don't know, I can't do the math right now. 500 francs is $1, so 400 francs about 80 cents. So you say bastos, deux places, and if they want to take you there for that amount of money, if they're going that way, or if because they usually have people already in the taxi, if they're going that route, then they'll you just climb in and they take off. Sometimes also they think that you're rich, so you pull over a taxi and say deux places somewhere, and they're like, no, 500 francs a piece. I'm like, just get out of here, I'm not paying that, I can get a taxi. And so they always this, I don't know why, the place where we lived, there was always this really angry old man who drove taxis, and this really like beat down taxi. And every time, somehow he'd catch us as we were leaving the apartment. He was like, "I'll take you someplace for 5,000 francs a piece." And we're like, "No thanks, we can get a ride." And he's just like, he'd always shake his finger at us. It's okay, man. It's okay. It's cool. So that's transportation in Cameroon. Cameroonian transportation is pretty fun, because you meet like crazy people inside, like just, they have extreme personalities, Cameroonians. Like, I don't know a Cameroonian who doesn't have an extreme personality. So you get in a taxi and you're bound to have an interesting conversation. They'd be like, "What are you here for?" Like, "Oh, we're missionaries for Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints." And like, "Oh!" And everyone in the taxi like joins in. Everyone's like talking. They talk really loud and lots of hand movements. And so they get in your face. And it's just normal talking. They're not angry. But still, it's a little bit intimidating sometimes. So that's transportation in Cameroon too. The Congolese people are extremely nice. They love everyone. They are very giving, and they're so spiritual. That was one of the things that struck me the most. They just accept the gospel so easily, and that's why the church is growing so rapidly in Africa, because they're visionary people. They have visions. They receive visions and dreams and spiritual confirmations that the church is true almost immediately. It's just incredible how spiritually inclined they are. Both in Cameroon and Congo, it's very open with religion. Any church can start up there. Anyone with a Bible can start his own church. And for that reason, there's tons of different beliefs. But even so, once they feel the truth of the gospel, they just attach themselves to it like fully. They'll leave behind sin. They'll leave behind addictions, and they'll just dedicate themselves to the gospel. And I just love the faith and the dedication that they have, the energy that they put in. Some of the members would leave me in the dust when we were going out together. They'd be like, "Okay, let's go over here." And I'd be like, whoa, wait up. They'd stop anyone. We'd just be walking and be like, "Brother, these are the missionaries. I want you to talk to them." And they'd be like, "Okay." We're just like, "Cool, awesome, that's great. Yeah, we'd love to talk to you too." And so they just believe, and they just the faith that they have just blew me away. I just love them both, both Congolese and the Cameroonian people, just so much. They're good people, good people. In Congo, we're right underneath the equator, basically. We're actually just south. And it's pretty solid. Sun comes up at 6:30, sun goes down at 6:30 in the afternoon. So it's very just year-round. The weather, they always tell us there's a dry season and a wet season. But in the big dry season, there's a little wet season. And in the big wet season, there's a little dry season. And that anytime you ask a native what the weather seasons are like, that's what they'll tell you, like word for word. So when it was dry, it was actually very cloudy. It was hot, very dry, and you had to be careful not to heat yourself. You could get sunstroke pretty easily. I know there was a few missionaries that did that. We were allowed to wear hats just to protect ourselves, and bring umbrellas just to protect ourselves from the sun. They'll tell you to bring sunscreen, but that is a terrible idea. Just because you just can't physically handle a layer of sweat and sunscreen and bug spray. So the most I ever wore sunscreen was maybe a little bit on my nose, just to protect that. But yeah, it's smarter to bring an umbrella. It's called a parasole in French. That's probably the wiser option, just so you don't suffocate yourself. Bug spray, don't worry about it. They'll kill you anyways. Those mosquitoes. There's nothing you can do to stop them. During the wet season, it poured. Torrential downpours. And Point Noir is actually a city that's built on sand. And it floods very easily. In fact, one time I was with my trainer. This is my first area. He was a zone leader, and we're going over to a different district for a district réunion, district meeting. Sorry, it's réunion in French. And so we have to take taxi and bus, and in Congo they have sort of lines. Maybe I'll talk about that more later, but. We get there and it starts raining. And before we left, we were actually like, we'll come back before we actually leave into our areas or sector. We'll grab our umbrellas then. So we're halfway there and it starts raining. It's like, oh no. So we're soaked. We can't find a taxi because no one wants to take in wet people. And so we'll start walking. And finally we get a taxi that will take us just, I don't know, 100 yards. And so we get there and we're just a little bit wet. So we get inside their apartment, we have the meeting, and it's just still pouring and pouring. So we finish up with the district meeting, and we're getting ready to go outside. Like, we'll just run down to the street, try and find a taxi as soon as we can. We open up the door, and there's just flooded. Just the entire street is up to our, knees in water. So we're like, oh no! So we panic, and so we just, went for it, and we're, wading through, and there's this pile of dirt that was up against the side of this brick wall, and we see a kid that's trying to get out of the water, and he tries to step on it, and he just sinks up to his waist because it was clay. And so he's like, ah! And so we're like, we gotta help the kid! And so we run over, and my trainer picks him up and lifts him over his head, and we were wading through this water, and I went in and grabbed his kid's sandals, and we're walking, and the people in the houses are looking out their doors what are these white people doing? Don't they know water? You shouldn't be in water. So they're yelling at us, get out of the rain! We're trying to! And so we carry this kid to safety and give him back his sandals. We could not find a taxi. We were drenched. So we had to walk. We probably walked for 30 minutes just in this rain, wading through this water. Trash is floating past, and I was a little bit worried because I had a cut in my foot. I was trying to keep that dry, but nope, no chance. So I got home and put hydrogen peroxide on it. Finally, we got on a bus, and I got in the front, and the woman who was sitting next to me was not happy. She was like, oh, that's the noise that they make for disapproval. Just, oh, I was like, I'm sorry that I'm wet, but that's a lot of rain. So that was the wet season, and it was almost constant. And when it rains, it kills. There's no cars. There's nobody selling. Everyone just goes inside and tries to stay dry. And so you can always find people at the house when it's raining, and they'll be really impressed that you actually went through all the trouble to get out in the rain and come see them. And some of the most grateful people is when we had a rendezvous, a meeting with somebody, it rained, and they're like, it's okay, you don't have to come. We're like, no, we're coming. And so we'd come, and they'd be like, I can't believe you braved the water to see me, that's amazing. And so they're always really grateful if you do that extra effort. They appreciate it to come see them. Yeah, it's nice. But it can get very hot, especially during the wet season because it's so humid. The sun, it switches between just storm and then just baking sun and humidity, and it gets so hot. You have to really hydrate yourself, or you'll just be miserable all day long. Yeah. So that's the weather in Congo. Out in the sector, I saw a monkey once. In Cameroon, there's actually a primate park. We went a few times for a P-Day. Everybody got in. It's quite a drive, so the couple took us. And you saw orangutans and stuff, but they're all inside like the zoo. But out in the sector, yeah, I didn't see really anything. Bugs, lots of bugs. Mosquitoes. So many mosquitoes, especially in Douala, Cameroon. It's terrible. It's terrible. Ants. We'll get into everything. Yeah, that's basically all the wildlife. Plants. Everything is basically edible, except for banana leaves. I'll talk more about plants with like food and stuff. Yeah, but I was really disappointed because I was hoping to see like elephants and lions and cheetahs and gazelle, but there's none of that. Yeah. In Africa, mosquitoes are pretty widespread, and obviously they carry malaria. Unfortunately, a lot of the doctors at the clinics there, someone comes in with any symptom at all, it's malaria. So someone will be like, would be teaching somebody and like, I have a sore throat, the doctor told me it was malaria. Like, really? It's like, yeah, I stubbed my foot, and doctors told me it was malaria. I'm not too sure about that. And so they tend to class any illness as malaria. Just the people there, like, oh, they died. What was it? It was malaria. They died in a car accident. Just anything was malaria. I never actually got malaria. I don't think. Maybe I got a little bit, but nothing serious. And that's, I mean, they give you doxycycline to take to prevent malaria. You take that daily. And it really depended on what city I was serving in. Sometimes we would have a mosquito net. Sometimes we needed a mosquito net. And other times we didn't. In Congo, yeah, you needed one. I would wake up and there'd be like 5 mosquitoes just on the outside of this net just looking in at me. And I'm just like, oh, not tonight. And places like Yaoundé, Cameroon. And the one apartment or both apartments actually, beautiful weather at night. We would get cool breezes in, and mosquitoes just wouldn't bother us. So I would sleep without any net. I'd sleep without any blanket. Actually, sometimes I have to put on a blanket. We just open up the window, let the breeze come in, and didn't have a problem with it. So it really depended on the area. In Douala, which I think was the worst for mosquitoes, it was right on the coast and it was extremely humid. And this one area I served it was called Bonaprizo. No, it was called Bonaberry. And the first day I got there, the power plant on that side of the city had an accident. Something exploded, and they didn't have a spare part. So the entire side of the city was without power for about 5 days while they sent to Europe to get another piece in. It is extremely hot in Douala. It is unbelievably hot and humid. So the first night we had we had more elders in the apartment than usual because some elders had to wait to get on a plane in a few days to go down to Congo. So we were 6 instead of just 4. And we're all inside one room because that was the room that had the air conditioning. So the first night we started it. It was cold. It was nice. In the middle of the night, I wake up and I'm just burning. Like, what? And I grab the remote for the air conditioning. It's not making the beeping noise. I'm like, no, power went out. And the next day, the next night, because we knew at that point that it was not coming back. So we had doors open, windows open. We were just trying to stay cool. I was like sleeping on tile until it got too hard, and I'd like roll onto like a mattress, like a foam mattress, and then it would get too hot in the foam, and then I'd like roll back onto the tile. And the entire time, mosquitoes just infiltrated our apartment and just ate us alive, and there was nothing we could do to stop it. And actually my companion at that point, he got malaria. And if you get malaria, the best thing you can do is just like recover, like sleep, eat, and just try to regain strength. Because there's always that urge to go out and teach even though you're sick. You don't want to be in bed and sleeping on a regular day. Even if you're sick, you just want to go out and teach just because you have that drive to do missionary work. But it's not a good idea if you have malaria, because that will prolong the sickness. It will take longer for you to fully recover, and it can get quite miserable. And so my poor companion, it was his last transfer, and he was deathly ill for probably 2 weeks. He was just like, I can't die, it's my last transfer. But he got better, full recovery pretty quickly. He was always really energetic, so after a few days he was bouncing off the walls, he wanted to go back out. So like, okay, we'd go out and teach, and he'd be like, ugh, I'd get sick again and have to go back. And so he was irrepressible. But that was even with taking doxycycline. He took it every day, and he still got sick. So even then, you can't foresee every possibility. You can't take every precaution. Bug spray, very ineffective. The few nights that I used it made it I still got eaten, and I was breathing in all these bug spray fumes, and so it was not enjoyable. After a while, I felt like the mosquitoes in one area started leaving me alone. I guess they got their fill of me. But generally, yeah. You get mosquito nets. Some places you don't need them. It really just depends on where you're serving. But they can be a bother. Yeah, that's health. Eating for health-wise. Some people will tell you not to eat off the streets. I'm not one of those people. Sorry. But some of the best food I ate was actually right off the grills. You had to be very careful. And really, they were pretty safe about it too, because if you sell food that's going to get people sick, you're not going to be selling food for very long. And so you could generally trust some of the classier establishments that sold food. We'd go down and get beans. Sometimes the meat wasn't all that great, but you could use discretion to know what you needed, what you should buy, and what you really should stay away from. Fish. The best fish was off the street. They have this dish called poisson braisé, like grilled fish, and the mamas the African mamas that would sit there on this like just like this crate. They'd have like this charcoal grill. They'd have a fish on there, and they'd have a water bottle with like the top poked in. And they'd squirt water onto the coals and make like the smoke come up, and they'd grill the fish with this special sauce that they would make. And it was absolutely fantastic. I taught a man, his wife was a fish lady, and every time we went over there, he fed us the fish that his wife would make, and it was absolutely fantastic. But I mean, use obviously your own discretion when you buy food off the street. We would wash vegetables in bleach. We'd make sure all of our meat was cooked. Chicken cooked thoroughly, beef cooked thoroughly, and I feel like that is the best way to really stay safe, to stay healthy with your eating. You're going to get parasites; it's inevitable. There's no way you can't. But you just, I guess, learn to deal with it. They give you medicine if it gets bad. If you get like a tapeworm or something, you give your worm bomb and blow that sucker out. Let's see. Very important is sandals. Bring nice sandals if you get called to the Congo, because one, it's there's no possible way to keep the floor entirely clean. I don't know what it is. You could sweep it for as long as you want and there'll still be dirt on the floor. And so walking around barefoot, your feet will get dirty, and you'll like carry the dirt into bed with you, and it's just not fun. But you wear sandals constantly. There's it's some sort of like worm that can get inside your feet, get inside your toes. It actually happened to my companion. Yeah, it was. He loves this story because there's just this bump that was on his pinky toe. And you're like, that's weird. Watched it for a few days. It's getting bigger and bigger, and eventually he tries. He's picking at it, and it comes off just a little bit, and you can see like this thing underneath it. He was like, "Oh my goodness, what is this?" So we took it down, and he took out his knife and like cut around it a little bit, like just picked at it a little, and there was this round little worm-like parasite that was living underneath the skin. And I mean, all of the missionaries were like standing around him, and he's just like, oh, "Look at this! This is insane!" And so he pulled it out, and he left like this little bit of a crater in his pinky toe. It eventually like healed just fine, but it was quite. He enjoys telling that story. We'd go to our investigators and like, "Look what he had in his toe," and like show them a picture, and they'd be like, "Oh, Mundeli." Oh, Mundeli is Monkey-tuba in Congo for a white man. It actually means I see something bright, like literally. But they'd say, "Oh, Mundeli has that worm." Apparently, all the children get it because they play out in the dirt barefoot, and it grows and explodes and makes more, and it grows and it makes more, and so they have to like get it out immediately on the first one, or else you'll have like multiple in your toes, and it can deform them. But they're you can usually tell when you have one because it's pretty obvious. So that's why you wear sandals all the time. Otherwise, you can get those parasites in your feet. Sandals, very important. Cameroon is different. Sometimes. We were really advised to be in by nightfall. I don't really know why it was different than the Congo. It's more developed. It actually has like roads that like overpasses, which blew my mind because I started in Congo, went to Cameroon, and they had like developed buildings. But there were a few times where I felt my companion and I felt prompted not to go into a certain area, for which I'm very grateful for. Listening to the Spirit will keep you safe. We were heading out towards this one family, and they lived way out in sort of this not a very nice area. And it was sort of later in the day that we were going out there. We started heading down this road, and it was like a 20-minute walk down to the bottom of this valley, past these bars and stuff. And I just started feeling sick. And I didn't know if I was feeling sick because I was in Africa and I ate something, or if I just didn't feel comfortable going down there. So we continued going a little bit further and a little bit further, and I just kept feeling sicker and sicker. Because I didn't want to be like the guy who's like, "Oh, I don't feel good, let's not teach this person." But I like stopped my companion, like, "Hey, I don't really feel good about this." He was like, "Yeah, me neither." So we turned around and we just left, and immediately we felt better. And that happened a few times. You could find yourself stumbling across sort of not so nice places. I was never threatened by anyone in Cameroon, but I think that's probably because I listened to the Spirit and got out of places before I was threatened. So yeah, we had to be back by nightfall in Cameroon. just because it wasn't as safe as Congo. Nothing ever happened to me, but I mean, I heard stories. Other missionaries I served with, they had backpacks ripped off their shoulders, through taxi windows, or accosted a few times, but nothing serious ever happened. Yeah, so in Cameroon, you stay in lighted areas, stay in crowds. Although crowds can also be a trial, both in Congo and Cameroon, because in those big marketplaces, sometimes hands like to go in backpacks or in pockets, and so you have to be very careful where you put important things, not in baggy pockets. I'd always feel a little bit ridiculous doing this, but it was for the best. You put everything in your backpack, and you turn your backpack around, so the back part was on your stomach, so you could see it, and you just put your hands like this. I mean, everybody in the market knows what you're doing. You don't want to get robbed, and they know that, and you know they know that, and they know that you know that they know that, and so everyone just gets a smile out of it. But it's the safest, it's the easiest way to stop your stuff from getting snatched. So that's what we do whenever we went into the big marketplaces. Well, in the White Handbook, it says that you have to be back, or you have to be after dark in areas that are well lit. And unfortunately, there are no well-lit areas after dark in the Congo. You're out in the quartier. A quartier is French for like the neighborhood or just the area. So out in the quartier, and it's dark. And oddly enough, in the Congo, I never felt in danger after dark. The people there are very, very nice. There are a few areas that you'll learn when you go there that you should stay out of, just in general, especially after night. But I never really had any dangerous areas that I was in constantly. The only time I was really threatened, I was in my first area, and it was in broad daylight, middle of this busy street, and I was with my trainer. He was talking to somebody, and I was sort of like, didn't understand what they were saying. This guy came up, it was more just like a 15-year-old kid, and he pulls out this knife. He says, "Give me money." I was just like, "No." He's like, "Okay." And just walked off. So I was just like, that was random. So in the Congo, I never felt like really in danger. The quartiers are very, very open. People are very kind and generous, and really respectful of you as a missionary. I feel like you carry a little bit of protection just being a missionary, and as well as wearing a name tag, because the people there, they fear God. They love Christ. They love the gospel in general, just the idea of scriptures and the gospel. So they see you there, and the first thing they want to do is talk to you, or they automatically respect you just a little bit, and that gives you a little bit of protection because they're very superstitious. They don't want to mess with Jesus. So they generally don't give you any problems. That being said, you have to be smart about where you go. I think one of the reasons you stay safe the longest is when you listen to your mission president and the missionary couple that are serving there, because they know better. They know what you need to do, and things change. So they'll give you advice on what to do. That was the Congo. Never really felt in danger, never really felt unsafe. We could get lost in the middle of this huge quartier, have no idea where we are. In fact, we did that on purpose a few times just to find people. We'd just head off and get lost, and every time we got lost, someone would be like, "Hey, can I help you?" "Yeah, we'd like to talk to you for a little bit." We talk to them and then ask directions for the way out. "Oh yeah, you just go this way and that way." And they're very, very nice people. I felt very safe there. Now, food in Cameroon. It's probably some of my favorite food in the world. It is delicious, and they have tons and like hundreds of plates. In Yaoundé, something to eat a lot is called le coq, and it's like a peanut paste. I'm not really sure how to describe it. It's just like it's not like a soup, but it's not quite like peanut butter. It's like somewhere in between, and it has leaves inside of it, and you eat it with steamed manioc root, which is really delicious. Another very common food there is called indolé, and I'm not really sure how someone figured out that you could eat indolé, because the actual leaf is extremely bitter, and in order to eat it you have to wash it for about 4 hours just by hand. Just scrub it on like a washing board. I just imagine like the first person trying it, just like, ooh, that was really bitter. Let's try and wash it and then eat it. I don't understand how that happened, but they wash it, they shred it up, they put peanut paste inside of it, and it forms like this green and white mush, I guess. But they serve it with either chicken, which is really delicious, or beef. And indolé is one of my favorite meals. Very delicious. Just has like a hint of bitter, but still really good. Other meals that are really good are banana malaxe. What they do is they take just unripe green bananas, super unripe, and they take them, they peel them, they soak them in salt water for a little while, and then they cook the bananas in this peanut sauce. They serve it, but it is extremely spicy. It's one of the spiciest meals that they have. So you're eating it and you're just sweating because you're like, it's super hot outside and you're eating this extremely spicy meal. Your nose is running. You're just like starting to tear up, but it's so good you can't stop eating it. Cameroonians eat piment, which is basically a habanero pepper. I'm not sure if it's habanero exactly, but it looks just like it and it's very spicy. And they eat that with everything. They like mash it up. They like throw a habanero pepper in the soup, just like boil it with it. They make this paste, or this they call it piment, but it's like a hot sauce, and they put it on everything. We actually got a member to make some for us, so we just had a container of it at our apartment. Put on eggs, you put it on spaghetti, you put it on sandwiches, anything really, pizza. But it's just extremely spicy, so you have to get accustomed to that. The weirdest thing I ate in Cameroon was beef hide. Just the skin of a cow. They have it in this meal called arrow, which if any Cameroonian is watching this, I'm sorry. I never liked arrow, but it's a very, very popular dish there. They serve it with what they call water fufu, which is like the fufu I was talking about, but it was more of a rice base, I think. And it became really wet and sort of like fell apart. And so it was just like a gloop, like almost like snot texture. And so it was really hard to eat that meal with beef hide. I did it because you don't not eat the meal, because that would be very rude. But it took a lot of chewing and swallowing to get that meal down. They have this thing. A lot of missionaries don't like this. I'm not even sure exactly what it is. It's called safu, and in Cameroon they call them prunes. They're like these purple. I'm not even sure what they are. They're like a fruit, I guess. They have this big seed in the middle, and this light green coating around it, and they boil it. And the first time you eat it, it might taste a little bit like bile, just sour and sort of ugh. But after you eat it, your first instinct is to spit it out. But after, if you like continue to eat it, you get addicted to it a little bit, I guess, because I would just crave prunes walking on the road, and the big African mamas would have like grills, and they'd be like grilling some prunes and some fresh corn, and a lot of missionaries will disagree with me, but that was one of my favorite things in Cameroon, were those prunes. And you can't find them here. That's understandable, but I miss them. I miss them a lot. Okay. This is deliciousness in and of itself. In the Yaoundé Bastos Church, one of the sectors there, there's a man who stands right outside. His name is Gomez. And he has this cart. And he makes what they're called spaghetti omelets. And those are the most delicious thing I've ever eaten in my entire life. He takes like spaghetti noodles and eggs, puts in tomatoes and bell pepper and some green onions. And then his secret ingredient is a little bit of sugar with cinnamon, just a tad. He mixes it all together with some piment, and he has like a grill right there in his cart, and he makes an omelet with that, with all the spaghetti and eggs together. And then he takes a piece of bread, cuts it in half, puts mayonnaise on it, slides this still steaming omelet inside of it. He hands it to you like this. Every time I went to that church, basically, every Saturday I was at that church for like a baptism or something, had to get a spaghetti egg sandwich because those were the most delicious thing. I've tried to make them at home. It's just not the same. That man has a gift. His name's Gomez, so have to try that. Oh my goodness. He knows the missionaries too because he's right outside the church. He knows. We'll buy from him. So that was, that's Cameroonian food right there. Absolutely delicious. So in Congo, they basically eat the same thing every day, and it's called saka saka. That's manioc or cassava leaves, manioc in French. And so they take the leaves and they mash them up. They have like these big wooden bowls, like mortar and pistol things, where they just mash up the leaves. They mash them, they shred them, and they take them and they add like onions and garlic, some fish, maybe some eggplant, and they boil it for hours. Just boil it for hours and hours and hours. And then they take this pot of boiling oil and pour it into this leaf muck that they made. And it makes this chow chow noise. We're asking the recipe from somebody, and they're like, chow chow. If it makes chow chow, you know you did it right. And they eat that. It's called saka saka. They can eat it with beans, which makes it saka saka medesu. And they eat it with rice. They'll eat it with the manioc root. Is very, very common. Manioc is the staple there. They'll eat the leaves, they'll take the roots, and they do anything with the roots. They can mash them up and boil them, mix them up, they make fufu with it, which is like this dough. Not really a dough. It's I don't even know how to explain it. It's just like, it's like a starch that you can like mold into like a sort of like a tortilla scoop. And let's use that to eat your food with your hands, which is always really fun. But Congo makes really good manioc fufu. Delicious. The other food that they eat there a lot is called Wamba. It's the noix de palme, or palm nuts. And they mash those up, and it makes this really oily orange sauce that they'll eat with rice and leaves. And in Congo, it's right on the coast. So they have a lot of fish. And usually they have dried fish or smoked fish. It's pretty common that they'll cook with, as well as salted fish. So you'll be walking down the street and just see fish skinned, lying open in the sun with just salt all over them. Hundreds of flies all over them. That's just, you can't avoid it. You just get accustomed to the flies after a while because they are everywhere in the Congo. But I enjoyed the salted fish. They'd make it into this oily sort of a sauce with onions and bell peppers and tomatoes. Very salty, but really, really delicious. And that was basically everything that they eat in the Congo, were those two meals. Saka saka, saka saka medesu, and Wamba. I mean, there's other stuff, but like almost on a daily basis they eat saka saka. That was the Congo. In the Congo, the weirdest thing I ate was tripe. Just intestines of I don't even know what the intestines were. I don't even know what animal they were from. But they served it with tripe and beans. They fed us warthog, which was really delicious. I've seen python. They sell python. They sell crocodile. They sell... the weirdest thing I ever saw. We're walking down past these railroads. There's a man holding parrots upside down. It's like, do they sell them as pets? No, they sell them to eat them. This guy was just selling these parrots. We thought about buying some, but no one wanted to clean it. So no, we won't eat that. So yeah, that was the weirdest stuff. Bats. They eat bats too. That's the weirdest stuff I saw in the Congo. The French actually is really nice in the Congo. They have a beautiful accent. Even though they're not as well educated, they speak French more often amongst themselves. And it becomes really like nice and polished. So it's a good place to start your mission because you'll actually like learn more about the accent and like proper grammar. And so Congo has really nice French. Cameroon, not so much. They have 251 dialects of native tribal languages. And so basically they're taught that as their first language, and then everybody speaks French as a second language to each other because there's so many tribal languages. The odds of finding someone who speaks your language are very small. And so they all sort of like speak like a French almost. It's not as nice. And they have certain phrases that are very hard to understand if you speak French. One of them is "Tu veux que même quoi?" It makes no sense in French, but it means "what do you even want" in Cameroonian French. And so another one they use words like "since" incorrectly. So I'd say "Je n'ai pas mangé depuis." I haven't eaten since. And it's weird because they like leave it at that. Like, since when? J'ai pas mangé depuis. Depuis. They like do that little like inflection on their voice. It's really funny just to watch, just to hear them talk. They have a weird accent. And so yeah, that's Cameroonian French. You really have to get accustomed to it before you can actually understand what they're saying. Congo, not so much. It's a language that's a cross between French and Kikongo. Both are native languages of Congo Brazza, and it's pronounced Monuke Tuba. I'm not entirely sure how to spell it. In fact, I can't really spell any of the language because it's really only spoken. I mean, it's written, but not really written. They really only speak in Pointe Noire, which is this area that you serve in. And if you can speak even just a little, you can open up doors. So you say hello, you say Mbote. And the other person's like, Mbote. Say, how are you? Afaso. And so you're like, oh, Mbote, afaso. And the other person says, Ka bien, ça va. Or no, that was French. Ka bien, it's good. Like, I'm fine. And then you say, if someone says that to you, it's like, Ka bien, you say, Inge, you? How are you? Like, Ka bien, Inge? And so that's asking them how they are. And so that's just like really just the basics, how you like start. You can just say Mbote, and people are like, oh, Mbote Mundele. They love it. They just love it. They speak it a lot, but it's a mix between French and Kikongo, so you can pick up the French, so you know that they're talking about you. You hear words like Mundele, which means white man. Mundele. And so you go, oh, okay, let's see, how many other white people are around here? Oh, yep, they're talking about me. And so you can say stuff to them in Kikongo, and they're like, how do you know our language? A very common phrase that I used a lot is Mukeve ba Chinois. People always thought I was Chinese. I don't know why. Like, oh, le Chinois. Beto ba Chinois. Like, we aren't Chinese. They're like, whoa, first of all, they're not Chinese. That's surprising. And second of all, they're speaking my language. And so that you can open up a lot of doors just like that. For some reason, the children, I think the parents told them that white men eat African children. Don't really know how that got started, but we learned how to say "I'm going to eat you" in Mosquitoes. Say "Ah muke gay," and the kids would go like "Ah!" like run away, and the parents would just chuckle and they're like, "Hey, come over here, come talk to me. That's funny." So that's just very basic Mosquitoes. We taught this one man, this older gentleman in Mpaka in Pointe Noire. He was Congolese, but he had this enormous beard. It was glorious. Just this white, fluffy beard. And his voice was really deep and gravelly. And so we just loved going over just to talk to him, because every time we'd be like, "Hey, Raphael, how are you?" And he'd be like, "Par la grâce de Dieu, je suis là." He'd say, "By the grace of God, I am there." And every time he prayed, we'd bow our heads and he'd pray, and it was just, his voice was amazing. And one time we were praying, and he starts off and he says, "God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, of Moses." And we're like, okay, it's normal. "God of Elder McGrath." I was like, "Oh, me too." "Of Elder Tebow." He just kept on going. "Of Joseph Smith, of Moroni, of Raphael, I who is praying." Who am praying. It was so funny, just the way he just really covered all the bases there. Let's see, another one. This man that we taught in Yaoundé, Cameroon. He had heard about the church from other people, but they're all negative. What he had heard, he was like, "What church is that?" And they're like, "Oh, don't go to that church. They're really weird. They're cultists." And so he was like, I mean, I want to go see what it is. Like, nothing negative like deterred him at all. He was like, "Well, I think I should let them give a chance to explain themselves." So he came into the church randomly, and it was on a general conference day when they were showing the CDs, general conference. And he met with the missionaries, and they set up an appointment. And then we went out and taught him. And this man was amazing. He had a small, cute little family, 2 girls. His wife was pregnant with twins. And he just picked up the gospel just like that. We gave him the Book of Mormon. The next Sunday he was at church, he already read till 2nd Nephi. And in the middle of the gospel doctrines, he shared. It's like, "Actually, this scripture here in 1st Nephi actually is what you're talking about. And I feel like this scripture," and we're just sitting there like, "You are amazing." But his wife we're talking to him because we want to get the family going. And his wife, he was like, "Well, I'm not sure. She just got baptized into her church a couple months ago." I'm like, "Oh no, she's going to be like a diehard." She didn't trust us for the first couple times that we met her. He just accepted the gospel so easily. So we started meeting with her, and she always just gave us a look like, "I don't trust you guys." And after like a couple lessons, she was like, "I just have a question. Where do we come from?" Like, "Great question." So we started teaching the plan of salvation. She's like, "I can't believe a church has these answers. I've been looking everywhere for us. I got baptized in this church because I thought it was like the closest one. I don't even believe it's true." So she started coming to church too. And so they were a great family. Yeah, I love them a lot. I'm extremely grateful for my mission, the fact that I was called there. I think one of the greatest things I learned was the love that God has for each of His children. Although there's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of suffering that goes on in Africa, I feel like it's a blessed land, that the Lord has His angels watching over His children there. Because I'm amazed that it's not worse. It could be worse, but just you could feel the protection that they have from stuff that should normally be very fatal to them. You could really feel the presence of angels in that land. I learned from that God loves every one of His children equally, no matter where they were born, or how they were raised. And I feel like the most important thing you could do as a missionary is try to develop that love that God has for His children in your life, to love people unconditionally. That's the strongest tool that you can really bring out in the mission, is just love. loving the people, serving the people. If you really truly love an investigator, you will do what is best for them. You'll pray for them. You'll study your scriptures every day for them in order to find in the scriptures the best thing to help them. And that sincerity that comes with loving the people, it helps the missionary work. I mean, it's key to the missionary work. No one will believe you. No one will believe anything you say if you don't say it with love, if you don't sincerely love the people that you're working for. But with that love, you make friends. You build these bonds with the investigators, with the members, and you'll carry those bonds with you for the rest of your life. I'm grateful for the people that I met there. I mean, they changed my life. I still think about them daily. I still pray for them. And it just comes from that charity that you develop on your mission. The most important thing you do is work on loving the people. I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.